This is a Cincy fan talking with LP. You can catch me on Twitter. That's a Cincy fan talking. You say it like it sounds, just leave off the G. If you have ideas for the show, you can reach me at Cincy_fan talk at yahoo.com. If you have any suggestions for the show, make sure you leave them there. Who knows, you might find yourself as part of the show. Any feedback would be definitely appreciated. And also, make sure you hit the Linktree page that's on my Twitter. Make sure you click on that. You can find all the different ways to contact me there. Enjoy the show. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Cincinnati Fan Talk. This is LP here with you. We'll be talking about sports from a Cincinnati point of view. But for this episode, we'll still be talking about that, but we're going to kind of take it national as far as what we discuss and talk about how it's affecting us nationally, kind of like how it hits here in Cincinnati. As always, you can hit me up on Twitter. That's Cincy_fan talk. And if you want to go ahead and talk about anything on Anchor, you can push the little button for the Anchor voice messages and leave me a voice message, and maybe I'll go ahead and put it up here on the podcast and we'll talk about it. Thanks to everybody that's been listening. Thanks to all the subscribers. I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you follow me on Twitter, and we can go ahead and discuss whatever you would like to discuss. What I wanted to get into first was this whole thing about sign stealing in Major League Baseball. You might have heard by now the Houston Astros got busted stealing signs for a couple of years. And now that they got busted stealing signs, we're hearing a whole lot of Major League Baseball players talking about other teams, other players stealing signs and, tipping things off to give themselves an advantage. So my thoughts about that as a fan, definitely not indifferent about it. I guess the word I would use is cynical about the whole situation. As a fan, watching baseball, I find baseball to be a pretty hypocritical sport. You got all these unwritten rules. You hit a home run, you're supposed to run around the bases as fast as you can. If you're up by like 6 runs or so, then you want to make sure you don't steal second or third base. Never mind the fact that we're seeing offenses explode in Major League Baseball. So if you're up 6 runs, that's like having a 2-run lead in 1988, the way the ball flies out the ballpark. Yet, we still got to live by these antiquated, unwritten rules, which means if you get grazed by a baseball, your pitcher has to, plunk the next 3 hitters with pitches, and then a brawl breaks out because of these goofy, unwritten rules. I always think about one phrase I heard a long time ago. History is written by the winners. And that one phrase tells you everything you need to know about what's happening here with the whole sign stealing thing. In America, we revere winners. We love winners up to a certain extent. If you win too much, then the backlash turns around and we automatically hate you because you're winning too much and you're not giving underdogs a chance to shine. But for the most part, we love winners. We write stories about winners. We make up things to build them up to be bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where you're like, wow, this person never failed. But when you really think about it, a cheater is a cheater is a cheater. I'm not saying you can't be reformed as a cheater, but that phrase, cheaters never prosper, is kind of ridiculous in America. So when you relate it to sign stealing, you're going to hear a lot of people say, well, it's not really cheating. You're gaining an advantage. But that's what cheating is. When you're cheating, you're gaining an unfair advantage that another team or another person can't have. You look at somebody like, let's say, Bill Belichick. He's regarded as one of the best coaches of all time. And in a lot of media's eyes, he's willing to bend the rules a little bit to get an advantage. He's always looking to gain an advantage. What's really happening is he's cheating a little bit, but instead of people calling him out on it, it's more like, no, he's a great coach and he's willing to do whatever he has to do to win. But the last time I checked, if you're cheating, you're trying to do anything you can to win. But what's not fair about cheating is I don't get the same advantage as you. If I'm playing the game the right way and you're stealing signs, then my chances of winning the game go down because you're willing to bend the rules to get an advantage. And it's weird because most baseball fans are saying, well, if you want to gain an advantage, you should cheat too. But from what I'm thinking, if the game is broken to the point where you have to cheat to win, what's really the point of playing the game? If everybody has to cheat to win the game, then the game is broken and the game needs to be fixed. I don't feel like if I'm running a baseball franchise, I should be forced to have to cheat to win. What should be happening is the rules should change so people can't cheat to win the game. Because if everybody's cheating, true, there's no advantage anymore, but a little bit of cheating is going to lead to a lot of cheating, if that makes sense. Let's say that I have a baseball team, and my baseball team is stealing signs. Let's say that, for instance. We don't get caught at all. We're not just going to stop at stealing signs if you're not catching us stealing signs. What's going to happen is our baseball team is going to find more ways to push the envelope, because that's what people do, especially in American society. If you're not getting caught, then you go the next mile. And if you're going to get caught there, then you go the next mile. This is why I'm saying, if I had a baseball team, I'm not going to cheat. For one, I would like to win my championship fair and square because, and I know this is going to sound like a little bit ridiculous and a little bit hokey, but you have kids watching this game. This is a child's game. I know we're talking about a whole lot of dollar signs. We're talking about zeros on top of zeros and on top of zeros. But this is a child's game. And we have grown men cheating in a child's game. This is really not a good look if people are being forced to cheat. If the Houston Astros are cheating, and if you look at what happened, if you look at like the penalties, it's really not a deterrent for cheating. What's going to happen is, this is the baseline. This happens with children all of the time. If I catch a child doing something they're not supposed to do and they get punished, the next person that does what they're not supposed to do, if they do the same thing, they're expecting the same penalty. And if you raise the penalty, let's say somebody's throwing spitballs in class and they get 2 days of detention for it. The next person that throws spitballs in class, they're expecting 2 days of detention for it. And if you hike it up to 3 days because they're the next person that cheated, then all hell breaks loose. They're like, no, you gave so-and-so 2 days of detention. I should get 2 days of detention. They've already processed in their head the punishment, and they're okay with the punishment. This is what's going to happen in Major League Baseball. Teams have already saw the punishment that the Houston Astros got, and they're processing it. And I guarantee you have most teams going like, okay, I'm good with that. I can take that punishment if we win a championship. I bet you out there's a whole lot of fans. I've even talked to some on Twitter that are like, I'm okay with what happened to them. If we win a championship, I'll pay the fine for that team. I'll pay the fine for the Reds. I will help. I mean, we can do a GoFundMe, is what a lot of fans are basically probably thinking. But the more you cheat, the more you have to cheat. If you look at steroids, You have a whole lot of people. I mean, you can take Barry Bonds, who probably didn't need to take steroids. Barry Bonds was a Hall of Famer before he started taking steroids. I mean, you can go back and look at the early 90s. You'll see like a skinnier Barry Bonds hitting 30 home runs and stealing 30 bases. That's what he did. But you notice that the pitchers start taking steroids. Everybody started taking steroids. So most people are like, okay, I have to cheat in order to negate that advantage. That's what happened with steroids. This is what's going to happen with sign stealing. People are thinking, the other team's already cheating. Why don't I cheat as well? And what's happening is it's going to destroy the game. It's already a game that's antiquated. It's old-time thinking. And as you notice, it's really an old boys network kind of sport. Most of the sport is white. You also have, Hispanics playing. You don't really have a lot of black people playing. I mean, the sport is already going through a whole lot of different issues. And when you add this on top, as far as more cheating, it's going to make the sport unwatchable. I mean, if I'm looking at a whole bunch of people that I think are cheating in the game, there's not really a reason for me to watch that. I don't want to see cheaters on my screen 24/7. So it's something that MLB really needs to look at. They need to have punishments that not only fit the crime, but are a deterrent. Because right now, I really don't see a deterrent as far as sign stealing. I mean, I see a reason why people do it. I see a way for people to prosper, but I don't really see a reason for teams to not get caught stealing signs. So that's really my take on it. We'll be right back. This is Cincinnati Fan Talk, and we'll be back to discuss a little bit of football. We'll talk a little bit about the conference championship games, and discuss some quarterbacks. We'll be right here after this break. This is Cincinnati Fan Talk. And welcome back to the Cincinnati Fan Talk podcast. This is LP. It's very, very nippy outside, but we got the hot chocolate with the marshmallows, and we ready to roll over here. As always, you can hit me on Cincy_Fan Talk on Twitter. We'll be more than happy to talk to you guys about pretty much anything you want to talk about. So we're gonna go ahead and get into this Rooney Rule discussion. Had an interesting conversation with some folks on Twitter. Going to the NCAA level before we go to the college level. Basically, he dropped this tweet about how all of the black coaches in the NCAA this year had losing records. So there's 16 coaches. He listed every coach and he listed their record. He was also saying that a couple of them didn't have losing records, but overall, I think about 14 of the 16 coaches that were black had losing records. So somebody else said maybe we should look at their entire body of work, like their career record, instead of just one season, because anything can happen in a season. So I actually did the work. I actually hit the Google machine and researched all 16 of their records, for their careers. And lo and behold, what you find out, that out of these 16, 6 have winning records. And then you have 2 more, it was their first year. And they went 5-7, both of them in their first year. So that means 8 of these 16 coaches either had winning records or were in their first year. But these conversations are systemic on how we don't have black coaches in the NCAA or in the NFL. Right now, not counting interim coaches, of which we had 1, there were 2 black coaches and 1 Hispanic coach. That's a grand total of 3 out of 32 teams. And a lot of people have been saying, hey, this Rooney Rule has been better for the game, because more people of color have opportunities to be head coaches. But do they really have opportunities to be head coaches? Now, I have to be honest. If I'm an owner of an NFL team, I don't want anybody telling me who I can hire as my coach. It's my team. I'm the one that has to live with the results. So I want 100% say in what I do. I don't want anybody controlling what I do. I understand that. But at the same time, you have a league that's 70% African American. 70%. This means out of every 10 people you see on the field, 7 are going to be black. Does it really make sense to have a league that's 70% African American, but you only have 2 black head coaches and 1 Hispanic head coach? That's 3 out of 32 coaches of color. This makes absolutely no sense, and it feeds into the narrative that us as black people and us as people of color, we're not smart enough, or we don't have the patience or the talent to be head coaches. And if you're thinking to yourself, maybe this is just a down year, for hiring people of color, then we can take it back. Because there wasn't a person of color that was a coach in the NFL until the mid to late 70s. And then you look at coaches like Marvin Lewis, and I know we shitted on him pretty bad when he was here. But Marvin Lewis took the Bengals from way down the bottom to a contender for the playoffs every single year. And he got passed over countless amount of times for jobs, head coaching jobs. And everybody saw what he did in Baltimore. And you saw what he did in Washington. He had really good defenses, but he kept getting passed over. We can talk about Herm Edwards. We can talk about Tony Dungy. I mean, the list goes on and on where you have people of color that have been passed over. And the Rooney Rule is a great initiative. It's a great start. But one of my favorite posters I've ever seen is you have 3 kids, and all 3 kids are trying to look over a fence. But a couple of them, 2 of the 3 are too small to see over the fence. So what happens is they all have crates to help them see over the fence. But all 3 crates are exactly the same height. So the tallest person can easily see over the fence. But the next tallest person can barely see over the fence. And the smallest person still can't see over the fence simply because all of the crates are exactly the same. I mean, everything is equal, but it's not really fair. So if you look on the second part of the poster, all 3 of these kids have different sizes of crates. The tallest kid doesn't have a crate. He doesn't need a crate. The smallest kid has the tallest crate, and they all can see at the exact same level. And me, like as a teacher, which is what I do for the majority of my time, as a teacher, I'm always talking to the kids about equal versus fair. We want things to be fair, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be equal. Equal doesn't mean fair. And I feel like the Rooney Rule is a really good representation of equal versus fair. As African Americans, we want it to be fair. Right now, everybody's talking about equal. Everybody gets the exact same chance. But if we're talking about hiring people of color as coaches, if you make everything fair, then we still are going to end up not getting any opportunities, because all you're really doing right now is making it so that at least one person of color gets an interview. But if these owners pretty much know who they want to interview, then really the person of color that's getting the interview is only getting it because of the Rooney Rule. That person really has no shot. What I say is you take the Rooney Rule a little bit further and you make it so that out of all of the senior executive positions and the head coaching positions, a fourth of those need to be allocated to African Americans, people of color. This takes it from being equal to being fair because it's not necessarily the same thing. Everybody needs to have not only the same chance, but the same opportunity to get hired. And if you're looking at all of these interviews and all of these interview cycles, you're looking at the same 5 or 6 coaches pretty much bouncing around and getting different jobs. Where you have very qualified assistant coaches that are people of color that are not getting hired. You look at the case of Eric Bieniemy. I don't know what more he can do as the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's calling the plays. He's making sure that everybody's talents are getting noticed and you're taking advantage of those talents. Kansas City's wide receiver core, it's a pretty talented core, but he's bringing out the best out of all of these players, including Patrick Mahomes. But he's getting passed over time and time again. Whereas you have somebody like Freddie Kitchens, who really spent half a year as the Cleveland assistant coach. He spent half a year, and they played against a pretty bad second half of the schedule the year before he got hired. And they shined. He did well with Baker Mayfield, and he got bumped up to head coach. And they were saying because of his relationship with Baker Mayfield and everything, and I get that. But there were so many qualified people, and not even just people of color. There were a lot of qualified people, period, that got passed over so Freddie Kitchens could get that job. That doesn't happen with people of color. We have to prove ourselves a whole lot more than just half a year. And this is the part of the Rooney Rule that really feels like it's unfair. What needs to happen is, like I said before, there needs to be actual allocated spots. And I know that's a tough sell because, like I said before, if it's me, I really don't want people telling me how to run my team and what to do with my money. But at the same time, you have to acknowledge the fact that there's a big fan base not being represented. There are a lot of players not being represented. When you look at almost 3/4 of your league being a certain color, and then you look at 85% of your coaches being a different color, the NFL has to admit that this is a little bit, even if they don't see it as a problem, they have to at least see it, even optic-wise, as just not a good look. And I really hope that the NFL kind of takes advantage of the fact that they're the most popular sport in the United States. I mean, soccer is definitely building up, but I mean, if you look at what happens on Sundays, I mean, it's basically football. I hope they take advantage of this and let the owners know that, look, we have an optic situation and we really need to fix this. It's not like we need to scrape the bottom of the barrel for people of color that can really coach. They're out there, and we've seen them out there. We see them pretty much every Sunday. We need to get these people a better chance of getting hired for these jobs. Because right now, they just have a chance. They're the kid that's standing on the last crate, and we need a higher crate. And that's basically where I'm at with that. Hit me up on Twitter if you agree or if you disagree. I have no problem talking about that as long as the conversations are respectful. It's all good with me. We're going to come back and we're going to have our last segment, and we're going to talk about who I think is going to the Super Bowl. So we'll be right back. Cincinnati Fan Talk. We'll be right back. Hey, welcome back to Cincinnati Fan Talk Podcast. This is your boy LP. We'll be talking real fast about the NFL playoffs and big conference championship Sunday. I personally think that the best NFL Sunday of the year is always divisional round Sunday and Saturday. I feel like those are like the 8 best teams, and they're all going to bring it, and they want that shot to get to the conference championship. I feel like this is one of the biggest Sundays. I mean, you have the 4 best teams, and they're ready to get to the Super Bowl. I went 3-1 with my picks last week. Felt pretty good about that. The Seahawks almost got me that perfect 4-0. I actually thought that the Titans would be the one that kind of messed me up on that, but the Titans did what they were supposed to do. So I'm thinking the Super Bowl will be the 49ers versus the Titans. I mean, that's just me. I feel like the 49ers, them getting home field advantage was big. I can't see them going on the road and winning the game to get them to the Super Bowl. But I feel like them being at home, them kind of being in their environment with their fans, with the defense that they have, I feel like I don't even think it's going to be close against Green Bay. Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, so you always have to be on the lookout because he's a dynamic quarterback. He does great things. They also have a running game this year. However, that defense is spectacular for San Francisco. And their running game is good enough to where Garoppolo doesn't really have to be the superstar. People were kind of worried about Garoppolo, like, can he carry the team? For him, he doesn't have to carry the team. They only threw the ball twice in the second half of their game last week. That's crazy. You throw the ball 2 times in the second half and basically make it so that the game's not even close. A game like that this week takes the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands, and I feel like that's what's going to happen. I see the 49ers winning 31-10. I don't think it's going to be a close game. I do feel like it's going to be a close game between the Titans and the Chiefs. It's really all about the defense for the Titans and the defense for the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to need to get stops. They need to get a lot of 3-and-outs. They need short drives from the Titans to get the Titans out for the field. They want to try to get Mahomes on the field as much as possible. On the flip side, what I think is going to happen is that Derrick Henry and that running attack for the Titans, they're going to get the ball and they're just going to basically ground and pound. But what's kind of been funny about them this year in the playoffs is that you're expecting that ground and pound from the Titans, and they've been airing it out. Like, Tannehill has really been getting the job done. So I see a nice mix of run and pass in the beginning of the game for the Titans, but at some point, Derrick Henry's going to show that he's a beast and he's the star of this postseason. I see the Titans pulling out a close one. I think it's going to be 21-20 Titans. So that's what I'm thinking. Really, I don't have my Super Bowl winner yet. Want to see what happens with these 2 games. I have a feeling to where I want to lean, but I'm going to see how these games play out before I make my final pick. So that's pretty much all I got for now. I'll check you guys out later on. We can go ahead and talk more sports. Again, hit me up on Twitter. That's Cincy_fan talk. You can leave me a voice message here. I'll definitely be happy to put those voice messages on the podcast, and we can talk about what you want to talk about on your voice messages or your tweets. So this LP, I'm going to go ahead and sign out. I'll catch you guys a little bit later. This is Cincinnati Fan Talk. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing. Please keep those subscribers up. Please keep those followers up on Twitter. And I'll catch you guys in a few. If you're not ready for the conversation to end, I'm not either. Make sure to catch me on Twitter. That's the Cincy Fan Talking. Leave off the G at the end of it, and we can keep the conversation going. Also, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button so you can catch the next episodes. The episodes will drop every Tuesday. If there's a change in that, I'll make sure to let you know. Appreciate the support. As always, life is good.